Well, it's official. I quit. Throwing in the towel. I'm done. Waving the white flag. I surrender. That's it. I'm done. You win, you rusty pile of shit. So that's it. I am officially pulling the plug on this thing. I've got like 3 days left and there is just absolutely no way this thing is going to be done. So I spent most of Saturday messing around with just the clutch linkage and I finally got it pretty well squared away. But it became pretty evident that there's no way I'm going to have enough time to get everything else squared away on this car. So when I first fit up the engine and transmission, I had the 36 pedals mocked up in here. So I ended up going with a longer clutch arm because it matched up with that better. I didn't even really think when I went to the 34 pedals. And when I got everything in there, I realized that the long arm was too long and it got to the point where this actually overrode and the clutch would stay disengaged until you pulled the pedal back up. So that's obviously not going to work. So I ended up changing out the arm, went back to the short one that was on it. That ended up being too short. I found one that was somewhat in between them. That's what's on here now. I ended up having to heat and bend that 2 or 3 times to get it lined up correctly. Had to mess around with a couple different rods. I had to shorten this rod a lot, use this clevis. It just took up a lot of time to finally get it so that it seems to work all right. At this point, we still have steering and the rest of the brakes and getting the body fit. Don't even know if this thing runs yet. It just became very evident that there isn't enough time to finish this. So I really have 2 options at this point. I could keep slaving away on this thing, hoping to get it done, knowing that it's not going to happen. Even if I did get it together and get it running enough to actually bring it up there, I would have been all weekend fighting problems, trying to work out bugs, trying to fix things, not having the tools that I need up there. It just would have turned into more of a hassle than it's worth. So instead, we're going to go with Plan B. This is Plan B. So if you've been watching any of the earlier videos, you already know that this thing is pretty much roadworthy. There's a couple little things I want to address on it before I bring it up there. First off, I only have friction shocks on the front. There's no rear shocks on it. So I finally got it around to digging through my giant shock collection. I had, 3 or 4 milk crates full of these things. Sorted out the junk ones and sorted out the good ones. Well, I found 2 or 3 sets of actually really good working shocks, and this is one of them. So instead of trying to make friction shocks work or whatever else I was going to do on that, I'm just going to put the original style back on it. So first thing I'm going to do is kind of bench test all of these, make sure the adjustments work, make sure that they actually have resistance and maintain resistance, and then we'll get them on the car. So now there are a few requirements for the car if you're going to actually race it. I'm not entirely sure that I'm going to run this thing, but I want to have it pass inspection just in case I decide to. So really the only thing this thing is missing is a coolant overflow can. You need to have seat belts, which this already has in it. So I'm going to look at a few ways that we can add a temporary overflow can to this thing without having to drill any holes or make anything permanent. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is bench test all these shocks to make sure they actually are good. I'm pretty sure I already did this, but I don't want to spend the time put them on there and then find out that they're not any good. So. I thought I had some plates to lock them in here with. I don't know. I think this will work. Just stay there. See what happens. Not bad. It's pretty good. Let's get a socket on that thing and see if we can adjust it. Oh yeah, that definitely works. That seems to work pretty well. All right. That's all right. Definitely tighten up a lot. Yeah, let's grab the front ones and see what these look like. Yep. Should be good too. So I completely forgot that when I put the friction shocks on here, they actually use a smaller bolt. So the horn bracket's tied into one bolt and the ground for the headlights is tied into the other one. And obviously I'd have to drill that out and change the eyelet on that to fit the larger bolts of the other shocks. So I think instead of going through all that, since I don't have a whole lot of time to get this thing done, I'm just going to snug these up a little bit more and run these for now. They work. They just clunk a little bit. They don't work quite as well as a hydraulic. But they'll get us through next few days anyway. So let's jump onto the rear and see if we can get them fit up. It's a little bit hard to see up in here, but these two holes in the back of the frame here, right there and right there, are where the shock is supposed to mount. And then that little ball right up in there is where the dog leg mounts to that. So we'll get it thrown in here. Hopefully it's a bolt-in thing. I don't think with the car being lowered it should affect it too much, but we're gonna find out. So because the car sits so low, I'm actually going to run these shortened bones on here. I have these on the front as well. That's the comparison between the stock one and that. It's United Pacific, I believe, makes these. You can get them through Speedway and wherever else. But obviously it's, you know, an inch and a quarter shorter or whatever it is. So if the car is lowered, it throws the angle of the shock arm off. So this will bring it to a better angle. Still not perfect because the car is a lot lower than what this gives you, but will definitely help it be better than it would be with this. I don't know if you really have to, but I always put a little bit of silicone grease on these things when I put them on. Both inside the ball and on the outside of it, between that and the little dog leg. Again, I don't know if you really need to, but So one other issue I was having with this was the front spring clamp. I had put a piece of hose on the bolt to try to close that up a little bit so it wouldn't rattle around. It apparently wasn't enough because it was loose enough that it actually came out of the hole. So I'm going to address that. I did something on the other car kind of similar to this, and I'm hoping the same thing will work on this, so let's try that. So I can't get the bolt out of there because the front apron is in the way, so we're just going to have to slide it on and off. Try to anyway. This is the piece of hose that came off of that. It's just obviously not big enough around. What I did on the Roadster, the rear one was kind of the same way. I ended up using some of this white tubing, which is about the right size. It'll slip over the bolt nice and tight. And then this larger piece of hose will slip on over that. I think, you can see the size difference. I think that'll close up the gap enough to keep it from rattling around. So let's cut a couple pieces of this and try to get them on there and see how that works. There we go. No, it's still a little bit loose. Better than it was. It should stay in the hole anyway. Only good enough for right now. Well, I think we're about ready to roll. I'm going to head out and grab some fuel, see how this thing does, make sure all the bugs have worked out, and then get her loaded up on the trailer. Car's all washed up, loaded up, pretty much ready to go. Still got some more parts to load up. If you guys aren't on the East Coast, you may not be familiar with the fact that we're supposed to get whaled with a hurricane here on Saturday. So we'll see how that plays out. Friday's supposed to be good. Sunday's supposed to be good right now. So hopefully we'll just lose one day. Eli has some interesting events planned for Saturday anyway, so we'll see how that goes. I'll try to record as much as I can. If you guys are in the area and you're planning to go, make sure you check either on the Facebook page or email them directly. The schedule has changed a little bit because of the storm on Saturday. So Friday the racing is actually going to start earlier, and Sunday it's going to go later. Usually it's just a half day on Sunday. This time it's going to be all day up until like 5 p.m. I think. So they're trying to make up for the fact that we're going to lose probably a whole day on Saturday. So should be a good time. Like I said, I'll try to get as much footage as I can, show you guys. There should be some interesting stuff going on. Some pretty cool cars. There's over 100 cars registered now. I'm sure a couple will back out because of the weather, but hopefully it's still a good turnout. So hopefully if you guys are going, I'll see you there. If not, then we'll see you in the next one.